Today we're going to be making a bandit killing quest, kind of a classic Dungeons and Dragons story module sort of thing, and I wanted to do that because I wanted to put our own fun twist on it, taking something that is pretty classic, yeah, killing some bandits, and making it our own. I already have a little bit of a structure thought out, so we're going to have an ambush on a road, another classic thing. So we're going to create a road map, then we're going to go have the party go to a town, and they're going to be told about these bandits, and then we're going to have a bandit fortress, a camp in which the party need to break in and kill some bandits. Or if they're feeling like being a bunch of baddies, maybe they can side with the bandits in some way. So we actually have a little bit of a structure for the quest, more than I usually do, and I've already broken out the Google Doc. So we can see here, and I put plenty of information down, bandit camp quest. We're on our way. Before we even tackle creating our first map, we needed to establish where exactly this quest was going to take place. Thinking maybe this town is jumping up to me and we can maybe put the bandits in this mountain hill range. That could be a fun terrain. And the Horn of Radagon, which is sort of our rebellious, revolutionary state, having a bandit problem makes a lot of sense because the Horn of Radagon is still figuring out its sort of laws and doesn't have like a very strong overarching government at the moment. So them not necessarily fully having maybe like a standing army or like a good town guard system where they're like able to protect the roads, I think to me makes a lot of sense lore-wise. With some reasoning for why bandits might exist in this region generally, we needed to answer a pivotal question. Who are these bandits? Because who they are individually and as a collective will change everything from how they attack, if they can be reasoned with, whether the party will want to side with them, and even why the party would be motivated to take them out. I mean, Magasan is taken over by the assembly line, you know, they're an annexed nation, so I think them having a lot of turmoil would make sense, and them having maybe bandits that are derived from Magasan. You know, it could literally be a bunch of ex-Magasanians who are like soldiers or whatever, who have formed a little bandit nation and they've like raided these small towns, or maybe are from these small towns. Or, you know, we could just have it, they specifically do this one road, especially if this is maybe a bit of a trade port to go into Radagon. Maybe this is just like their gambit. These were early moments in the quest creation process, and much of what we'd been doing was simply trying to get an interesting collection of pieces we could play with later. Some would become prominent pillars for the quest, and some would be forgotten. While making our ambush map, I placed a chest onto it that would be used as a trap. From this, chat would suggest something that could actually be used as a direction for a quest. Maybe the party is commissioned to get what's on the chest, but it's too heavy and locked for the bandits to take, so they use it as bait. The quest is like finding the person whose item it is, getting the magical moving stone or whatever we want to do, and then returning it to them. The mystery of the immovable item would end up becoming a side quest where the party can try and return it to its owner, or they can figure out a way to be able to move the item and take it for themselves. This whole process gets its own video as it's its own thing, but it'll continuously be relevant throughout this quest. We'd keep working on our ambush map, deciding on some unique enemies to spice up the encounter, creating a dynamic landscape to make for a challenging vertical battle, and so on. Similarly, this gets its own video, but the most important thing to note is that the party can use these bandits to gain information about the larger, more substantial camp that they're a part of. In a very linear fashion, we would head to the nearby town to work out how the party can gain more information about the bandits and get themselves involved in a quest where they straight moited them. Once at this town, we'd rush ahead a little bit and figure out one way the party could get themselves into the camp. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. We'll have some of the bandits in town be like, we will guide you to this town over here, if you are interested. There are bandits along here, it's unsafe, there's been attacks and ambushes. We'll take you an alternate route that's safe. That alternate route goes into the mountains and to the bandit camp, but the party are purposefully doing this so they are able to get into the bandit camp. It's very fortified and protected, and the party are able to just run and attack it if they want, but that'll be very difficult and probably something they're gonna fail at. So, disguising themselves, being taken in Trojan horse style, and then attacking from the inside is the approach we're gonna do. This would answer the question of how the party can get into the camp, but it didn't answer the question of why they would need to. Apart from revenge for being ambushed, or they're just hired to murder bandits, why would the party want to take out these bandits? This wouldn't be figured out until much later, and only after we made progress answering the question, who the hell are these bandits? This was a concept we discussed majoritively while creating our actual bandit camp. We expanded out the idea that the bandits were all originally originally ex-Magasan soldiers who were forced to flee after they lost the war to the TLA. Since then, they've been recruiting new people to their group and have been attacking individuals in the Horn of Radagon, something they believe is justified as the Horn of Radagon is allied with the TLA. While they are still, to a degree, generically bad bandits, I want to give them motivations and reasonings that are somewhat justifiable, giving some pathway for the party to actually side with them, or at the very least, let them live for whatever reason. This is nice background information, it makes the characters a bit more holistic, but to make it more than just some ancillary lore the party may never know, we'd build off it directly when developing the key impetus for why the party need to hunt down these bandits. I think we can have an individual that's like trying to track down these bandits. We can have like an NPC who's like the central figure when they get to the Tickety Time Town. They're like, hey, what's up with these bandits? And they're like, oh, we know there's a bandit problem, like, and then they sort of send them off and put them in the direction. And a classic group would be sort of a sheriff, a town guard, things like that. But is there a sort of slight variation on that we can have? Maybe a bounty hunter. Ooh, okay, so if they're gonna be ex-Magasan or TLA soldiers, perhaps they're actually sort of TLA bounty hunters that are looking to sort of track down and finish the rest of the Magasanian soldiers who are specifically causing chaos. This is a great first step, but to make the logic of all parties a lot stronger, we'd weave the world's lore into the mix. Maybe even a slight development of this is it's like the Horn of Radagon and the Assembly Line are creating an alliance. And maybe one of the like demands of the Horn of Radagon is like, hey, a lot of people from Magasan came here and now they're doing a lot of banditry, or they're being like, you know, going against the revolution or whatever. One of the things that we're sort of requiring of you, or we would want from you, is can you guys set up a bounty hunting task force to track down the ex-Magasanian soldiers that have become sort of these refugee, sort of displaced members because of the war, and can you stop the banditry in the Horn of Radagon? This partnership and relationship is what we'd use as the basis when creating a way for the party to actually side with the bandits. We needed a legitimate reason why killing the bounty hunters would free them from the bounty hunting here, and not just result in more bounty hunters being sent later. So when it comes to the bandits, what the bandits are going to ask of the party, so we can have that optionality of, instead of just killing them, they can go like, hey, blah, 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 like, don't kill us for all these reasons, like, we have our own desires and goals or whatever. Can you actually go and kill the bounty hunters tracking us down? And then once you do that, can you dress up and disguise yourselves, take their credentials, pretend you are those bounty hunters, and go and, you know, say, we have officially killed these bandits, and we will give you sort of whatever is required, you know, the bureaucratic proof that is required to go do that. And then we're going to be like off the list of bandits and Magasan soldiers who are being hunted. And even though theoretically, you know, they're going to continue doing their banditry and they continue doing bad stuff, people could be like, they're not dead, they're real. The TLA are probably doing this more as like a bureaucratic favor of the Alliance. They're doing it to sort of have this, yeah, we're tracking people down, sorry that like the Horn of Radagon is now being sort of overwhelmed and attacked by these soldiers from the war that we were a part of, but they're not necessarily like super wanting to do it. So when people get sort of ticked off the list, they're done. Like, oh, these soldiers have been dealt with and are dead. No problem, done. And they can't really be put back on the list. So if the party disguise themselves and actually go through that bureaucratic process of being like, yep, we got them, then the bandits are basically like free to do whatever they want, and the bounty hunters are no longer gonna come and get them. This was all very good, but it didn't answer the question of why the party would be hired by the bounty hunters to kill the bandits, and what the bounty hunters would do during this encounter. As the bandit camp is purposely meant to be way too much for the party to take by themselves, having the bounty hunters assist made sense to me, but I do feel weird about the situation. I'd put that on the back burner for a bit while we talk through the specifics of the bounty hunting situation to come up with a reason why the party are hired as bounty hunters. So something we could also do is perhaps the TLA head bounty hunter, like losing multiple members of their team is like an absolute disgrace. However, if they can get the party on board, they can make them official bounty hunter members if they're able to complete this quest. And within the ranks of the TLA, if they like lose members but are able to recruit new people in their place, that kind of like evens it out, or maybe makes it less bad that they've like lost members of their team and they're very scared of getting like deranked because of this like failure of like doing this sort of brash assault onto this bandit camp and losing so many members that they're like, hey, can you do this for us? Da 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 da. If we do, we can make you official bounty hunters for the TLA, which could be very fun and can open up other opportunities for the party to sort of ally with the TLA or do these extra bandit hunting quests or things like that. With much of the background for these battles figured out, we needed to discuss the battle encounters themselves. Win the combat encounter while being inside of the camp and knowingly walked into a trap. I think it's a cool idea, but I have not fleshed out why that would work. So that's one of the things we need to figure out. We decided that getting trapped purposefully would be required so the party can open the gate, letting in the bounty hunters who will have stealthily made their way to the entrance of the camp. Then the party and the bounty hunters can tag team take down the bandits. Something that makes sense because the bandit camp has about 12 or so enemies and is meant to be a situation where neither the party nor the bounty hunters would be able to take the bandits by themselves. This left us in a bit of a strange position though, because now the battle encounter needs to be something more than the standard battle encounter where the party fights some enemies. I've mentioned before, I don't like doing quests where if the party want to do a full-on assault of this camp, they're not going to be strong enough to do it by themselves. They're going to need the bounty hunter NPCs to help. Narratively, it makes a lot of sense. DMing wise, I feel a bit strange about it, but I think it could be okay if we create those NPCs and we give them to the party, rather than the DM controlling them themselves. Maybe that could be fun, where the party gets to control like 2 characters each, their own character and another like PC that we create for them. Could be fun. We'd go on and create some characters that will act both as the NPCs the party control during their assault of the bandit camp, but also the enemies if the party decide to kill them. First though, we'd need to establish what that combat encounter could be, and we'd go with a second ambush. And I think that'll be really nice symmetry. We'll create a second ambush map, how very fun, to go with our first ambush map. And this is like a changing of the tide. So instead of the party, the party get ambushed at the beginning of the quest, at the end of the quest, they get to ambush someone as well. This didn't make 100% sense though in terms of the combat that the party had planned with the bounty hunters for attacking the bandits, but I figured we'd stick with it. I think it'll just be more fun if the party by themselves do the ambush. I don't think it'll make for a very fun battle encounter if like the party drag the bounty hunters into here and then everybody just shits on the bounty hunters and they die super easily. Makes sense, and I think we can leave that open as an option if the party want to take that, if the party just see that as the obvious win and just like, great. If the win's there, the win's there, let's take it, let's not mess around. This does mean that this particular battle encounter is a little more shaky in its reasoning than I would usually try to have. Why would this second ambush happen if the bounty hunters are meant to be waiting outside the camp? Especially because the party are only going to side with the bandits after they have met them already, so they wouldn't be able to do it on the original trip there, which is probably the best time to do it. All of this makes it a little clunky, but I think that's okay. The party are going to bring their own reasoning and vibes to the quest anyway, and being agile during your sessions and reacting to the party's approach will likely open up an opportunity where the party ambushing the bounty hunters will make sense. Or if you're lucky, the party will declare away that them ambushing the bounty hunters makes sense, and then as the DM, all you have to say is, yep, that's exactly what I planned. We'd flesh out some of the smaller aspects of the quest, but overall I'd really love what we'd finish with. We'd created a quest which involves 2 battles which are moderately unique. The quest as a whole results in the party becoming either bounty hunters or bandits, which I think is a cool choice they'll like. It also has a side quest attached, and on top of that takes them to a town which has its own quest, extending out the whole experience, chaining together sessions in a natural and fluid way, altogether making this one of my favorite quests I've ever made. And that's the video. If you want to run this quest or use the maps involved, jump on the Patreon to get access to them along with a massive other content. The maps and quests are also individually available on Etsy. Twitch is where I made all of this live. Subscribe for more of this content. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye!